Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Mikki from Wildcat Guitars and from the Surf Kings. We are a Southern California surf band bordering on progressive and a little bit more edgy. So I thought I would come in today and show you what my rig is, what my rig does, how it can transform from a very traditional surf tone to some of the edgier and the more modern, the more progressive stuff that we do. So real quick, I play through a trio of Fender Custom Shop Strats. This 61 with the rosewood board, this is my main Strat. It's got the Fender Custom Shop Fat 60s in it, happens to be my favorite pickup. Back here is the Gold Sparkle. It's a modern trim and body with a kind of a 56 shaped neck. Also has the Fat 60s. A little bit heavier ash body, so I get a little bit bigger, bassier tone out of that one. The amp itself is a dual Showman. The head is a 63, blonde 63, into a 66 blonde cabinet with the 115. The 115 speaker is the most iconic sound in surf. You will have seen a number of heads through the years, but most of those traditional guys always were looking to use the 115. It just gives you that bottom end. And when you're playing so much clean, chimey, it can be a little harsh at times if you don't add that bass. And then last but not least back here, this is a 1985. This is a reissue reverb tank. And the way that the chain runs is it's very simple. I go straight from the guitar into the pedal board, out to the reverb tank, and into the amp. So the first thing I'll show you, we'll leave the pedal board out for the moment. The tank itself, here it is straight, dry. I'm going to be mostly in my middle pickup for now. So there's the head bone dry. With my tone and my level already set, and they stay pretty much preset all the time. The dwell knob is the only thing that I'm moving on the tank. The vast majority of the time live, it lives at around 3 to 3.5. So that if something happens on the pedal board and say the reverb that I've got selected happens to go down for some reason, it isn't a bone dry signal. I've still got a little reverb coming from the tank. But if I'm doing anything more traditional and I want that really classic 60s surf spit, I turn the dwell up to around 7 or 8. So you hear surf guys talk about spit and drip, and it sounds like water dripping, right? That's that very classic surf thing. So again, low dwell, that's on about 3, and then if I really need it spitty, at around 8. So that's the rig behind me. I'm going to turn the dwell back off so that we don't have anything now coming from the tank. And we'll just focus on what the board is giving us. So I'll give you kind of a flyby here first, and then we'll sort of work through the pedals as we go. So I run into the Ernie Ball V Junior pedal. I really like this pedal. Maybe would love a little bit more of the volume sweep that my old Ernie Ball used to have, but the fact that it has the tuner in it and the gauge on the tuner is a just huge thing live, to be able to have it all in one pedal, to be able to see what my level is at, to be able to kick that level up and know exactly how much I'm adding or deleting it's just fantastic. So out of that goes into this Goodrich Sound Baby Bloomer. This is a local guy, Kevin Ryan, lives here in San Diego, North County. What that pedal does is essentially it acts as a, for lack of better terms, what it's doing is it's pre-boosting my signal. So anything that I've lost between the guitar and the out of the volume pedal is being restored at the Baby Bloomer. and it also gives me the option to select, to adjust both the level, and it's got like a switch in it that adds either a little bit more brightness or a little bit more bottom end. So a lot of times when I change guitars, rather than having to do an adjustment on the amp, I can just reach down and select the switch on the bloomer for either this, the gold one, or whatever I'm using in lieu of those two. I run out of that into an Emerson M drive, which is a, if you're ever looking for a transparent overdrive, it's as transparent as it gets. It absolutely does not change the tone in any way, shape, or form. When you turn it on, and you have the drive down, it doesn't even sound like you turned it on. It's that transparent. As you start to add gain into it, really all it's doing is it's kind of beefing the signal, almost like a boost. Doesn't ever really get super overdriven or distorted at all. I have this MXR micro amp in between, and what the micro amp really serves as, we do a lot of gigs outside, and depending on the ambience of what's happening around us, a lot of times we may be outside and we may not have a PA. So if we're outside, there's a lot of external noise, or it's really open and the sound is just sort of lost in the ether, then I pretty much will turn the MXR on as well and leave it on the whole gig so that I'm not losing volume and projection. So there's that. Then last in this first section of chain is, this is an old TS9. This is Keeley modded. And the mod in this is nothing more than getting a little bit more mid-range and bottom end in it. This was a very bright TS9 originally. I loved the overdrive that it was adding and the clarity, but not the lack of bottom end. So I had it modded. And anyway, so I'll play through. I'll turn the tank back up to about 3 or 4. So we got a little bit of reverb for these. So again, that's with nothing on but just the reverb. If I turn on the M drive, so you can hear there's just a little bit more oomph in it. It's not really overdriven per se, but that sort of the quackiness and the clean is kind of goes away a little bit. Again, to the micro amp, just if I need a little bit more. So tone doesn't change, no overdrive, just gives me a little bit more. It's like, instead of reaching back to the amp and trying to figure out what volume I want to go to, I can just kick that in. Then last but not least, the TS9. Now the TS9, of all of these pedals, I don't really ever mess with any of the controls on these. They stay pretty much set all the time. The TS9 is the one that can vary depending on what I'm doing. So with the drive all the way down, so you can hear it's kind of still has that chime, that super clean. Now all of a sudden it gets a little bassy, a little bit more bottom end in it. And that's with the drive all the way down. Now anything that we do that requires a little bit more, I can back the level off. So you can see as I kick that in and out how it gets, backs off, gets clean. And again, it's not acting as a distortion in any way. It's not even really acting as a modern style overdrive. It's simply driving the tubes a little more naturally. So that's the first section. I'm going to turn the dwell back down So we're back to dry. Now, I have, aside from the reverb tank, I've got 3 separate reverbs on the board. I have a Boss RV5. That does the majority of the work. So pretty spacious. It's got a little bit of a spring element, but it's just a more traditional, like large room setting. The second one is, this is made by Source Audio. This is called the True Spring. And in my opinion, if you need a spring reverb pedal and you need something small, this is the best one on the market. It will give you the closest to an actual spring reverb sound without actually having a tank, or there's a company called Surfy Bear that makes a spring reverb that can go on your board. But I mean, it's huge. It takes up a lot of real estate. So if this were to go down for some reason, or if we were in such a small setting that I just didn't want to have this in line, then I can use the spring, the True Spring. So that works really well. And the True Spring is great because it has a really nice tremolo built in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the spring reverb out. I'll add the Boss. So it's nice to have that on the fly too. Again, I don't have to, and I don't use it a lot, but when I do need it, I don't have to worry about having a separate tremolo pedal taking up a spot. Last reverb is, this is the Fender Marine Layer. And I use this one specifically for that big, lush, long decaying ambient style. I get this question a lot. People are like, so you have a reverb tank, but then you have like 3 reverbs on your board. Why do you need 4 reverbs? Again, kind of going back to what I was saying in the intro. If we're doing something where we're maybe adding in some traditional surf tunes, or maybe we're doing something for somebody where they want more traditional stuff, then I have both the reverb tank and the True Spring, and that very drippy, surfy reverb is going to be in place the entire time. But, you know, again, we do a lot of stuff that's a lot edgier, a lot more rockin', a lot more progressive. So that's where the other reverbs come into place, is I don't always want that trad, surfy kind of drip sound. Sometimes I want a bigger, more spacious thing depending on what we're doing. So I know it's a lot more reverb, like most players are only going to have 1 on their board, or they might not even do that. They might just have a good reverb in their amp. But I don't know that I could live without any of the 4. I got to have them all at the same time. As I work through the chain, coming back out of the Marine Layer, in between that and the Echo, I have this little spark. And the spark boost is simply so that whatever I'm doing, So obviously that is, if I'm taking a solo in a section, that's the boost for that. When I have to join Tom, who is the main guitar player in the band, when I have to join him for a harmony on a section, which we do quite a bit, then I kick that in so that the guitars are more equal. Most of the time when I'm playing my rhythm sections, I like to be just behind where he's at and let his part stand out. Last in the chain in terms of effects is the new Space Echo, the Boss Space Echo RE202. And it simply just is giving me that old school, turn a little reverb back on. So a lot of times I'll use that in conjunction with the marine layer. So not only do I get that big ambient non-decaying reverb, but then I also get that step, that repeating step in there as well. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to use those two to just fill this huge wall of sound to allow everything else to kind of sit on top of, whether it's the guitar or what Ronnie's playing on the bass. So that's pretty much the board as we work through it. I've got a looper on the end that I use strictly, usually when I'm writing. I don't use it within the confines of the band. And then last but not least in the chain is Fender's level buffer, and it is just that. It's the buffer at the end of the line. I really like Fender's level buffer because what I get is it has both a level on it. So what I can do is in a really quiet setting, I can actually turn the level way down. I can leave everything else where it's at, including I'm trying to leave my volume pedal where it's at because I don't want a decreased signal coming out of the volume pedal. I want it to feed the line with everything that it's got. So I'll adjust that here. And it also has a frequency. So I can take a lot of the highs out or add them all back in if I want it really sparkly and chimey. And then it also acts as a kill switch. So something weird happens, I just kick that off and it's dead. So there you have it. Everything that you wanted to know or didn't think you wanted to know about Surf Tone. So thanks for joining us today. I appreciate it.